I watched clips of Bobby's from 2021 and 2022, and he's talking about the dangers of the PrEP Act and how horrible it is and how dangerous it is and how these vaccines are not safe and Big Pharma is running amok. He's the health secretary now. He could literally tomorrow declare there is no public health emergency. Overnight, the liability goes out the window. Why is he not doing that?
I have the same question.
If you were in his shoes, you're the health secretary. Would you do that on day one?
Well, I would. I know that he would get fired immediately by Trump administration because clearly Trump is not interested in any disclosure or investigation of Operation Warp Speed and now obviously Epstein list either.
You are listening to the Doc Malik podcast. This show is 100% independent and fully funded by listeners like yourself. So, if you wish to support Ahmed in all that he is doing, then please subscribe to his channel on Spotify or his Substack. Or simply buy him a coffee with a one-off donation, links to which can be found at docmalik.com. Now, let's get on with the show.
I'm going to botch this up. Right, I'm going to try my best, okay? Privet sestrionka dobrivet. Is that okay?
No.
Was that bad? Oh, God.
I say, привет, сестра.
Привет, sister.
Привет, брат.
I just want to say, you are such a big softie. Like, on the exterior, you might give this, like, you are the boss, but you're a big softie, aren't you? Look at this. Look at this, what you did. I know you. Look at this beautiful painting. You painted Danielle, Rebecca's daughter. You big softie. God bless you. What a beautiful portrait. Tell me about this.
Well, I'm soft starting a project, an art project, to make portraits of victims. Because, like there's a lot of books written. I've been approached to write a book and, several people proposed that they'll publish my book. And I've written chapters for other people's books. But, I was thinking about it. I was like, should I write a book?
What were you saying about you wrote some chapters for some people and then go on from there?
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. So as I said, I was approached to, people asked me if I wanted to publish a book, and I've also written chapters for other people's books. And I thought about it and I was like, well, there's already a lot of good books written on the whole COVID thing and medical freedom and vaccines and stuff like that. And the people that we still need to reach they don't read those books. They prefer to hide their head in the sand. And so they prefer to think that victims like Danielle, like Grace Shara, like Trista Martin don't exist. And we're all conspiracies and we just made it up. And so I thought if I engage them in the art is a different vector completely and captures different people. So I'm hoping to bring attention to this. It takes a long time to do this. So, and you need to have a body of work. So I have been working with a few families like Rebecca Charles, and her daughter Danielle was killed in the hospital. And so I've been kind of working with them. And once I have enough material, I'll probably set up a separate section of my art website and advertise the project and ask people to participate. I mean, I'm doing it all for free. There's no funding needed here. I just want to create a body of work so that it can be presented, maybe published as an art book, maybe in combination with some stories of these people. I don't know yet. I don't know yet how it's going to evolve. But this is what I'm starting to work on it because I do art. Art is my passion, and I really like portraiture. And this is an opportunity to do what I love and also bring the message forward.
Wow, you're very gifted. You're very gifted. Look, my mother-in-law started doing some painting a few years ago. And she's not bad, I'll be honest with you. Her original artwork was kind of horrific, but over the years she's got better. And I'm not just saying that because she's my mother-in-law. But a few months ago in Easter, we went down to see her and she was doing some art gallery show with her other artists in a local church. And I walked around and I wasn't impressed. It was very mediocre. But what you've painted is really beautiful, and I've had Rebecca on the podcast, and it's a very emotional story, and you just captured the beauty of that young girl, and I'm sure she's going to be very grateful. So yeah, well done. How long did that take you to do as well, by the way?
They're different. Some come up very quickly. I mean, the main thing is to plan the composition, and it's very hard to work with people when you have never seen them or met them, and very hard to work from photographs. Although a lot of artists today just copy photographs, and I refuse to do that because good artists never copy. so I asked them to provide multiple photos of the same person in different lighting, in different situations. And with Danielle in particular, I chose to portray her as much younger child as she was, versus she was in her 20s when she was murdered. And I looked up through different photos and tried to envision the person sitting in front of me. I tried to kind of meditate and get into that state of flow and envision, and then create a composition. So the composition that in that painting, there's no photo like this. It's my composite of vision of multiple photographs of her, and to put together into this composition. So that takes a while. It takes a couple of weeks to figure this out. So the painting itself may take 4 or 5 days to do. Depends. Some are very fast, but like the most important part is to see the person through the photos, which is very difficult to do.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, you've done amazing. And I love the fact you're using your artistic skills. I keep saying this to everyone who's got, artistic talents. And you probably know some people like Bob Moran, but there's other mediums as well. So for example, Drew Treglia, he's the guy who made the movie Jones Plantation and Barnum's World. Really satirical, documentary movie type things. Brilliant, just wonderful works of art. And then you've also got comedians, and humor, art, I don't know, it's such a powerful medium. It can cut through the noise of propaganda better than any statistics and charts and bar graphs. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. That's why I thought about this, because we need to tell the truth in every medium that exists, in art and poetry and music and video and film and theater, so that it breaks through that wall that people build around them to pretend that we're just cranks. We make up this and the data, and they just blank out and walk away and continue falling for this nonsense. So that's my plan, is to eventually, maybe I don't know, maybe put up an exhibit. I might create different other works, derivative works. These portraits that I send them to the family immediately so that they have something. But then I might do other like larger works if I have space and time.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. All right, listen, I'm going to jump into some other stuff. So tell me the truth, right? Who do you actually work for? Is it the CIA or is it the KGB or FSB?
Uncle Putin, because he gave me a bear. I have to, like, I can't.
Uncle Putin. Love it.
Yeah, my dear Uncle Putin, obviously.
Why do people call you controlled opposition? What is the reason? I mean, I get things like I'm a gatekeeper, a virus gatekeeper, or some other things. God knows what it is. I get upset. I get upset because people just attack me for stupid reasons. You didn't mention communitarianism in that podcast with the Philip Wiseman. And I'm like, what? I'm sure I did. Like, you didn't. And I'm like, what? Like, we covered so much. Like, oh my God, like, give me some slack. What do you get? Like, what do people give you a hard time for? What is it? It can't just be because of your accent.
Yeah, it's a very, original thinking on behalf of many geniuses out there. And so this is one of the things. I mean, I've been accused of being a Ukrainian spy, a Russian spy, Mossad agent. For what reason? I have I had nothing Jewish. I'm not Jewish. So anyway, but that's kind of like
Maybe it's because you're ultra Zionist. That's why. Maybe because you're an ultra Zionist.
No. And yeah, so I think it's just they can't. So as usual, there are, unfortunately, the so-called health freedom space is populated largely by people who are paid and controlled in some ways. And not all of it is bad. So, obviously people need to make a living somehow. And, there are various ways by which they try to sustain themselves and continue this work and continue discussing these topics. But inevitably, you become, okay, so there are sponsors, there are companies that they affiliate with selling products, which are normal types of relationships. But immediately once you enter into that relationship, you become at least partially controlled by it. Then, so then there are obviously governments that have set up a bunch of PSYOP operations, and we know about it. So, there are NATO networks set up. There's a psychological operations center run by NATO in Riga, for example. So they run these kinds of online ops. Online ops is a very important part of it. So then there's a bunch of them in Australia. There's a center in Australia also running ops. And obviously all these intel agencies do work for each other. So the Brits will do dirty job for Americans. Australians will do the dirty job for Americans and British, and so forth. But they all run these internet PSYOP operations, which involve anonymous accounts. Largely it's anonymous accounts, trolls, and then large accounts. But then there are also private interests, such as there are law groups and legal investment funds that run these operations because they need to portray certain narratives in court or support certain narratives in court to do cases. And a lot of lawyers, unfortunately, are motivated by just being paid, fundraising off of sentiment, of a strong sentiment, to say, I'm going to go defeat, blah, blah. But it's inconvenient when I say, well, actually, Pfizer has this ironclad defense through PrEP Act and can't really go and run around and say, sue Pfizer, sue Pfizer, sue Pfizer. So some really prominent people, for example, early on were accusing me of being a pharma shill and being paid by Pfizer and working for pharma, defending them because I've been pointing out to PrEP Act. And I was correct. I turned out correct. But while this was going on, so the courts all adjudicated, as I've been saying, PrEP Act is a ironclad liability shield for Pfizer. And, the same very prominent people right now made the complete turnaround and now talking about DOD, where before they were accusing me of being pharma shield because I was talking about DOD.
Right.
But that's how these operations are. So some private, some governmental, some non-governmental, funded by the governments. There's lots and lots of these. And what I tell people to be especially concerned with is these very large anonymous accounts that you don't know who owns, who controls. Maybe initially it was one person, then they sold it. That maybe now it's a group of people. Maybe who knows who is funding it right now. But they come out and they start these attacks and they control and they brand themselves with like mouse logos,
But you know what? You've described it beautifully, Sasha. And over here, we've also got the 77th Brigade, which is a division of the army. And I think a lot of these intelligence agencies have got something where you can't really do stuff on your own domestic soil. So they kind of outsource it to other security agencies or private, corporations. So yeah, the Five Eyes all work for each other and add on to that the Mossad. So yeah, 100%. But you know what? Something really weird happened today. A couple of things actually. So I reached out to an account. I don't really like this person, but I want to get them on as a guest, because they've got opposing views to mine, and I want them to talk about their views on my channel, and I'll have a chance to interrogate them and maybe even expose the problems with what they're saying. And they've got an account on X, which is very similar in size to mine. So I messaged this person saying, I really like you to come on my podcast and talk about mass migration and whatnot. And all I got back was, hi, I'm the assistant can you send me some podcast recordings and I'll get back to you? And it was like, wow, someone's running your account for you. Like, I don't have people running my social media accounts. You know, I do everything myself. And you just think, how do people, like, who runs your own social media account? If you've got a team, like, what kind of outfit are you? Like, that's just weird.
Exactly. So they also, like, a whole bunch of these attackers, including WikiLeaks, huge account with mouse troll army, a bunch of his collaborators. By the way, like, let's talk about that. So WikiLeaks, right under Archmedic, under Dr. Arkan Saidi, several accounts. So we know he writes under these several accounts, and he's anonymous. So why you have a large account? So why are you pretending to be these other people on other social media with other anonymous handles? A couple of his associates, same thing, Open Wayet, and something Mouse Coyote. It's the same person, some kind of a horse gambler. So here we go. Oh, we have a horse gambler. So somebody's paying his gambling debts for him to do these smear attacks. And then a whole bunch of other mouse characters that show up whenever these guys are there. So meaning that either it's them or their associates. And so all of them have been claiming that, first of all, they were attacking my daughter, who has nothing to do with my COVID work. Absolutely nothing. So they've been attacking my daughter continuously. And then claiming that she runs my social media. Okay. No, I run my social media myself. I know several people who don't. For example, the Baileys, who wrote a hit piece on me.
You too. Well done.
Yeah. So they wrote a smear hit piece on me and a few other people. I contacted Mark Bailey and I said, what gives? Like, can we talk about it? And he said, oh, I don't run that account on the Substack. So they don't run their Substack. So anybody following them on Substack, please be aware that they outsourced it to somebody.
What?
Yeah.
This is insane. I'll give an example. Like, I've got another X account for my podcast, and I tried to post on that as well. But Sasha, it was just too much work. I was like, hold on one second. I've got my own podcast channel, my own X account. Then I've got a podcast account. I can't be bothered duplicating it's just too much work for me to do. I was like, do you know what? Trying to impersonate someone else or run anonymous accounts, I don't have the energy for that. Like, who are these people?
And run them consistently at high volume of posting. I'm like, well, when do you have time in a day? The Substack writing and your podcast, it's full-time job basically.
Yeah.
And then I want to have life. I need to do art. I need to exercise. I need to eat and be outside and not be on the internet all the time. And this is how normal people function. This is evidence of an operation because somebody is running these continuously. So they probably have multiple shifts. They probably have other staff, as you've noticed, somebody has, they have assistants and coordinators and things like that. So, and oftentimes these accounts are not large enough to justify even having a single assistant because you have to pay them, right?
Yeah. This is what I'm like, what? Like, what? Like, just like when I reached out to this account and it's like, I'm the assistant. I'm like, what? Like, what? Like, how does this person afford an assistant? Like, what the fuck? Like, this doesn't make sense to me. Well, the reason why I'm talking about all of this, and one of the reasons why I reached out to you was, someone was whispering in my ear and phoning me literally and saying, Sasha is controlled opposition. I was like, and they've got a medium-sized, smallish medium account on Substack. And I was like, right, well, bring the receipts. What is it? And it was like, well, I was once in a Zoom call with her and she was very rude to me. And I was like, okay, that's not a great example of why she's controlled opposition. Well, she's independently wealthy. I'm like, that's not a reason either.
I'm not controlled.
Yeah, she used to work. Yeah, that means you're not controlled. Exactly. I said, well, that's great. That means what she's trying to say is like she doesn't need the money. She can't be bribed. She can't be, bought, basically. And then it was like, I think he even said, like, you've got a big house or a second house. I was like, it doesn't matter. I don't really care. And then it was like, she worked for Big Pharma. I went, yeah, so did Mike Yeadon. I was like, what does that mean? That means that she's got the knowledge and the insider information. I was in the medical system, the corrupt medical system. I have insider knowledge. Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't
Well,
mean that
that
because
particular person, yeah, that particular person we're discussing, by the way, so he says I was rude to him on Zoom calls. I am on video with him very politely. We are talking. I've helped him, bring his message out. We've discussed the pharmaceutical regulations. We had very nice podcasts. So he, I wasn't rude to him. There's a video of us interacting. And
I think it might be also you were meant to do another meeting and you left him out or something. I just don't know. Anyway,
I know that he refers to our joint phone call where he participated, the discussion with Ron Johnson. For some reason, he thinks I was rude to him. It was Ron Johnson's phone call set up by Ron Johnson's staff, inviting multiple people, including him and me. And we just answered questions to Ron Johnson. That's it. This
is what I mean. It's just all of this stuff is nonsense. And I don't think he's an agent for anyone, but it just goes to show you people are messy and sticky. Like Sasha, it's like people are messy and sticky. And it's like, oh man, just because you don't agree with someone or you don't like them for whatever reason, that doesn't mean you just start name calling them and then ringing up people and saying, oh, they're controlled opposition. And like, I get this quite a lot. Like I literally posted, as you know, like in the last half an hour, I posted a list of people on X that I said you should follow, and you went, hey, what about me?
Well, yeah, I know you. It was honest oversight, and I was correcting it.
Yeah, and it's like honestly, I just think of you as like one of the queens of Substack. I don't really think of you on X space. You don't really come on my timeline, and I was like, okay, I'll correct that, but
my X account is still like throttled. It got a little bit better, but it's still very, very
yeah. I never see you. Like it was quite surprising. I saw you just pop up. I was like, I was like, oh shit! Like literally, she's gonna be my guest in 20 minutes, and I forgot to put her on it. I got caught with my pants down. But no, what I'm telling you is, I then got a message on my phone, and I'm reading out to you, and it's like, and this is how it goes. Wow. Not very nice. And they've done a screenshot of the list and they're not on it. And I was like, oops, you're one of many I forgot. I'm sorry. I'm gonna add you to the list. Too late. I'm like, oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. Now you're in. Yeah. Like people just immediately assume that it was some sort of a plan, a strategy. I don't assume. I know you forgot, and I was like joking and like
I know. No, I know.
Smiley faces.
But it gets worse. It gets worse. Then they say, "This is what I'm talking about." I get this kind of stuff every day. And by the way, about a third of the people you listed are operatives and troublemakers. And I'm like, what? What? And I was like, how about we chat? And it was like, not really. I'm busy. And this is what I'm trying to say. Like that person who was telling me that you're a controlled opposition, I said, look, let's do a podcast where you both come on the show and you talk. And you were happy to do this. You told me, let's do it, organize it.
Let the record note that I agreed to that podcast immediately.
And they went quiet. And it's like, this is what I'm like, what's wrong with these? Do you know what? Just if you don't have receipts and proofs, don't say things. Like just drop it. Just leave it. Anyway, can we talk about the PrEP Act? Look, I'll be honest with you. When you first started talking about it, well, when I first heard you talking about it, that's the correct way of putting it, I didn't really have a clue about the PrEP Act. I was like, what is she talking about, this PrEP Act? But basically, there's a lot of people who still don't know. I know you know it back to front, upside down. But the PrEP Act stands for Public Readiness and Emergency Preparedness Act. And it's a U.S. federal law, so it covers all the states, enacted in 2005, and it gives the Secretary of Health, currently Bobby, our friend Bobby, and the authority to issue liability immunity for the use of certain medicinal products during a declared public health emergency. So if there's a public health emergency, basically it grants immunity to manufacturers, distributors, program planners, healthcare providers, doctors, administrators, everybody, are used as covered countermeasures like vaccines, drugs, and devices. And it only applies during a public health emergency, which is declared by the HHS secretary. And my understanding is the last health secretary extended that to like 2029, and it's still on. Yeah. And for some strange reason, Bobby hasn't said, by the way, I declare there's no longer an emergency. And overnight, all that liability kind of goes out the window. But he's not done it. And I don't really know why he's not done it. Can we talk about that?
Yeah. So, as you know, myself and Catherine Watt, she was the one who pointed me to the PrEP Act in the first place a couple of years ago. And that's when my sort of the dots connected immediately as far as what's going on here. So what happens is PrEP Act in combination with a couple of others, Project, I think it's BioShield and BioShield Act and CARES Act, which enables funding of all of this. So together, all of these pieces of legislation have created sort of a legal cage where all these wrongful acts and crimes that they have committed are completely legal under conditions of this declaration of a public health emergency, on which all of this is hinging. So as soon as HHS Secretary issues a declaration of public health emergency, then under PrEP Act, then all of this falls into place. And all of these acts, like killing people in the hospitals with knownly harmful, deliberately harmful protocols that there's no way in the world the doctors who did this did not know. They all knew. They all acted in malice. They killed on purpose Danielle's daughter. They killed Grace Shara. They killed all these people with vaccines. They acted knowing full well that they were fully protected for liability by the PrEP Act. And HHS also, once they issued the declaration, they continuously were sending legal opinion letters and clarifications of your liability immunity and how to act and what to do and what to say and what to follow in order to maintain that liability immunity. They were continuously sending to all the healthcare providers notes on how to behave. And the PrEP Act basically makes them, remember the Nuremberg doctors trial? Some people would say it was show trial, but at least there was some accountability. It produced a lot of evidence. People did get punished, including to death. And so the Nuremberg defense was we were just following orders, and it didn't fly. It failed. So PrEP Act makes that defense fully legal in the United States today. So following orders by the medical professional to kill their patients in cold blood, knowingly, deliberately, is fully legal as long as they follow the orders of HHS.
Well, that's it. That is you've summed it up beautifully. I mean, that is the problem that I have. The PrEP Act. I've looked into it, and it just creates that legal environment, like you've just said, that where the corporations are protected and the individuals are not. While and you and I are not protected from it. It allows pharmaceutical overreach. It weakens patient protections, and it shields government, industry, and hospitals and the medical profession from accountability. What I'm trying to say is it weakens us as a patient. We have no protection.
As public, as patients, as consumers, we have no protection. And the problem is that even if you could say that original passage of this PrEP Act, which had lots of problems. So Catherine actually wrote a series of articles explaining how it was passed in 2005. It was added on to by the Republicans. So it was championed by the Republicans. It was added on to the appropriations bill and the Katrina relief bill, so that they couldn't really vote. Nobody could really vote no, because you would be voting against giving relief money. So they held the Katrina victims as hostages so that the Congress votes for this enormously unconstitutional piece of law. They pretended it wasn't legislation. They said, it's just part of appropriations. Now, and this was prepared and passed over Christmas on the weekend, in the middle of the night in 2005. At that time, Democrats organized very quickly, and they got legal scholar Edwin Chemerinsky to write a letter explaining how this proposed piece of law, which was a piece of law, to major legislation, how it violates U.S. Constitution, which makes it void from the start. But they passed it. So he wrote the letter. Then Senators Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Richard Byrd, and Ted Kennedy spoke against this bill. Very, very well spoken. I agree with everything they said. I could sign up to every word that they said against this bill. They said it's unconstitutional. It strips us, U.S. citizens, from our constitutionally protected right to seek redress, to have compensation for injuries, to have due process, to all of that. So it removes all those rights with regard to these products and procedures and protocols. And so they discussed it. They were against it. Then the next day they all voted yes, because as I said, the Katrina relief was like hostages, and nobody could say no. And so the bill passed. It wasn't used in the way it was used in 2020. So for 15 years, it was used primarily for money laundering, for looting the public money to buy products that were completely unregulated, total poisons, and nobody needed, such as, for example, anthrax vaccine was produced under this umbrella, but it was used only on military service members in the Gulf War to give them all the Gulf syndrome. But it wasn't used on civilians. So most of the time they were just buying from their crony companies like Emergent Biosolutions. They were buying these for huge amounts of money, these poisons that were not regulated at all. In fact, in an Emergent contract, which was disclosed during COVID, it states specifically that if there is no current PrEP Act declaration for this anthrax or for whatever, fill the blank, COVID, anthrax, avian flu, if there is no current declaration, then whatever we have already shipped to the U.S. government is not for human use. So that's, as I said, they were just producing poison and shipping it to the national stockpile that nobody used, and you would hope that nobody used, but sometimes they would use them on military. In 2020, though, they've applied it throughout on the civilian population completely, with coercion, threats, and lies. Importantly, lying is also legal under this law. So they lied about pandemic. They lied about how dangerous virus is. They lied about the treatments. They lied about everything. And it was legal. And so my point even, and I talked to Bobby Kennedy about PrEP Act several times. I talked to him first time 2 years ago. I was on his podcast. He's on video discussing it with me. He knows all this. As recently as a few weeks ago, I talked to him on the phone about it. So he knows.
You told me, but you also told me some other stuff. Are you happy saying that publicly? Like you said some stuff.
Let's not discuss the private phone calls publicly, but I'm just confirming that what I'm telling you right now, he knows full well. And yeah, so in 2020, they deployed it all on civilian population. And even though it's legal to lie to the public under this, they have to disclose. So the law obligates them to disclose to recipients of these products that they are all known risks. And my contention is that the fact that they are countermeasures under PrEP Act is a known risk, because status of the countermeasures absolves them from any regulations that apply to pharmaceuticals, including honest disclosure and marketing. And that's a known risk.
Yeah, well, I'm still in shock that the Act grants legal immunity even in cases of clinical negligence, as long as a product or action falls under the definition of covered countermeasures during a declared public health emergency. So that means there's no accountability even if harm is caused. So the doctors, the hospitals, the pharmaceutical companies, even the government officials cannot be sued for errors or omissions or negligent acts. The only thing for if they're administering it during distributing under the cover of a PrEP Act. So the only time you can, so even if, for example, a vaccine causes serious harms and deaths, careless handling or administration, or patient suffers and it's negligent, down to negligent, nothing can be done about it. And that's like, what? That's your legal, natural right that they've just taken away from you. And the only thing you can do is willful misconduct. But to prove it, to override the immunity, you need to prove it that not only did someone make a dangerous mistake, but they did it knowingly and intentionally. Now, that's an extremely high legal bar to
Exactly. It's a very narrow definition of willful misconduct, a very high legal bar to prove that they were knowingly, intentionally. It's very, very hard. And in addition to that, to even get to that point, you have to jump so many hoops and prove so many things. You have to prove definitively the vaccine caused death. And even the cases that did prove that and went through all the hoops, they still get dismissed. So then you have to, the only way you can sue is in one district court in DC. That precludes, it preempts all state law, which is another hugely unconstitutional feature of this law. So the states in the United States are supposed to have ability to regulate their own legislation for the most part, and there's a lot of things that the states have not delegated to the federal government. But this one says it preempts all state law as far as the liability for injury, wrongful deaths, like in case of Grace Shara, all sorts of things. So you only have a federal avenue. So it's the crime cartel that's committing the crime tells you, oh, you can only sue us in our own court. In our own fake court that we set up, not even like the real court, but this administrative fake court that we set up, we control, we pay. So.
Okay, listen. I've just watched. I'm having Matt Skow on my podcast tomorrow, and he's the guy who directed and made the films Died Suddenly, The Greatest Reset, stuff like that. Really, really intelligent, amazing individual. Very talented, and can't wait to have him on my show. And I watched clips of his movies, and Bobby's on them from 2021 and 2022, and he's talking about the dangers of the PrEP Act and how horrible it is and how dangerous it is and how these vaccines are not safe and big pharma is running amok. He's the health secretary now. He could literally tomorrow declare there is no public health emergency, and overnight the liability goes out the window. Why is he not doing that?
I have the same question.
You were in his shoes. You're the health secretary. Would you do that on day one?
Well, I would. I know that he would get fired immediately by Trump administration because clearly Trump is not interested in any disclosure or investigation of Operation Warp Speed, and now obviously Epstein list either.
So that's massive. So for all the MAGA Trumpers out there, you're saying that if Bobby said, nope, there's no more public health emergency, and there isn't, is there? There never was there?
There never was, but there isn't one, and certainly there isn't one for 10 years.
There is actually one public health emergency, and it's because of something called government. Government is out there. That's a health emergency to all public citizens.
Major health hazard, is the government. Stay away.
You would say, look, there's no public health emergency. PrEP Act is no longer active. I'm sorry, guys. You've got no more immunity. You better be careful what you're doing. And overnight, it won't fix everything, but it would help, wouldn't it?
Of course it would help. So it would immediately stop shipments of these products, and it would immediately stop everyone, like vaccinators, vaccinating because they no longer have the liability shield. And the reason they are all clamoring for it is, and this is a major coping strategy in MAGA circles, is to say, oh, well, Bobby, definitely cannot stop the PrEP Act because all these brainwashed liberals are screaming at him and suing him, and pharma is after him. Can you imagine? Like, shocking, right? Nobody expected that when he was running for president and then joined Trump campaign. We didn't know that pharma didn't like him at that time. Apparently now it's big news. And so they're all saying, oh, no, we need to convince every single last liberal on earth needs to be convinced with science and data before he can terminate this PrEP Act. Nothing could be further from the truth. I said Nobody needed science or data to declare a pandemic. This is how the law is written, and they never had any. Nobody needed the science or data to declare a pandemic. Nobody needed science or data to do the lockdowns, destroy economy, drive people out of business. Nobody needed science and data to fire you, or you resigned, but fire other doctors who didn't want to comply. None of that. Nobody needed science and data to start injecting everyone with straight poison. So why do we now need science? So we didn't need science and data to commit the crime, but somehow we need major science and data to stop the crime. That's not true. That's not how it was written.
Exactly. Bravo. So again, in that movie, Died Suddenly, my jaw dropped this morning when I heard Bobby say, I'm willing to die, or, along those lines, I'm willing to die, fighting this fight. And I was like, whoa. Because I'm like, why is he not coming out and stopping mRNA tech? Why do we have SpikeVax and NextVax or whatever, Spike? And some people go, well, it's the CDC and the FDA and he's got no control over that. He's the HHS secretary and he can't pass legislation and this and that. He's still the goddamn health secretary. He's the HHS boss. I mean, he can't overnight stop the PrEP Act and tell the people at the CDC and FDA, look, you need to stop this. I'm going to come for you. We're going to expose this bullshit once and for all. But he's not. He's pulling his punches. He's talking about things like red dye. You can choose whether to have food with red dye or not. But still today, in so many states, children haven't got a choice. To go to school and have childcare, they're mandated to have these shots. They don't have a choice.
Be poisoned. So I view all these like red food dye and titanium dioxide and Skittles and all these, talk about food and other stuff. They're seed oils. They're in our face. They're humiliating us. It's a slap in the face. It's an insult to every Mahamam who earnestly worked to get them elected, who spend time and effort and advocacy. And now we're sitting there aghast at these statements. And so, but as I said, the reason my, guess is the reason he's prevented is because Susie Wiles, for example, probably runs the entire U.S. government now. Because I don't think Trump is a big ego man and he wants to be seen and paraded around and meet with dignitaries, whatever. But I don't think he's like that hands-on. I'm pretty sure Susie Wiles runs the ship for him. And Susie Wiles is a major pharmaceutical lobbyist. She ran Ballard Partners, and not just pharmaceutical, other companies, but pharma is a major, major part of her business. Same as Pam Bondi, who also worked with Ballard Partners, making millions, and then separately lobbied for Pfizer.
Yeah, wasn't she external counsel for Pfizer? And she didn't declare that, by the way, at a congressional hearing. That was interesting.
Yeah. So, and as you know, political campaigns are funded by capital gains. Not cash, actually, but capital gains. Capital gains on the stocks of, pharma companies as big part of the funding that Trump received because they love him. And I recently published an article. Anybody can do this. Go on any investment charting website, investments.com, and chart pharmaceutical pharmaceutical companies index. Yeah. Operation Warp Speed was unprecedented manna from heaven. This never happened to any industry in the world, in the history of the world. Maybe, I don't know, maybe when they discovered major gold deposits somewhere, maybe that had that impact. But outside of that, it just went through the roof. It was pretty flat over the years. And then it went through the roof magnificently due to Operation Warp Speed and about $2 trillion of funding that they received right away. And now it's up to $4 trillion. And under Biden, it declined. It went in the opposite direction. And when Trump got elected again and took the office, it skyrocketed. It's now at the same level as it was during Operation Warp Speed. But see, it's not enough now because now you need to exceed that level. So they are about at zero return compared to 2020. Now they need to exceed that level. That's why every FDA move, every HHS move is to please pharma. And I've written about this continuously. Their new policy for mRNA vaccine shots are designed to please pharma. Everything that they've been approved Please Pharma. They did the roadshow, the listening tour. Of course, not listening to vaccine victims. No. We were listening to pharmaceutical executives, and according to quoting Marty Makary, FDA commissioner, they were creating safe space for pharmaceutical executives to air their grievances and their troubles, so that we can listen to them and make sure that their lives are better. That's their priority, is to nurture that set of capital gains for the next, whatever the next political campaign they're going to run.
Hey, my lovely listeners. Just a quick shout out. As many of you know, I now offer a one-to-one online consultation service. And no, it's not just for people contemplating surgery, it's for any of you. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're struggling in life, maybe you're going through a painful divorce or facing a major health decision, or if it's the fact that you've just left a rushed doctor's appointment with a head full of unanswered questions, book in with me. I can help you make sense of your diagnosis, explain mainstream treatment options in plain English, and also walk you through alternative and integrative approaches. If surgery is on the table, I can guide you through preparation, how to reduce post-op risks and complications, and what questions to ask your surgeon before going ahead. So maybe you're just looking for a second opinion, or you want to figure out whether to see a GP, a homeopath, an osteopath, a chiropractor, a physical therapist, or even which supplements or lifestyle tweaks to make. Well, I think I can help you, buddy. Tap into the knowledge I've gained from 25 years as a mainstream doctor, and the last 2 years interviewing over 400 experts from all walks of life. And don't just take my word for it. Here are just a couple of real reviews left by real people who have worked with me. Jessica. Having a consultation with Doc Malik has made me feel empowered to take control of my health condition and proceed in a manner that is in line with my beliefs. He helped me make sense of my condition, gave me a clearer picture of the medication I've been prescribed, and provided direction on a number of lifestyle and diet changes I can make. Highly recommend. And then there's Diana Austin from yesterday. These days, it's hard to know who is real and who is genuine. So many are imposters with no other agenda than draining your wallet. Doc Malik is the real deal. He is knowledgeable and caring and suggested actionable strategies for me to pursue. I'd give him 6 stars if I could. Thanks, Diana. So there you go. If something inside of you is nudging you to book a session with me, trust your gut instinct. I always tell everyone I meet, trust your gut instinct. It never lies to you. You lie to yourself. So you can read more of the reviews at docmalik.setmore.com, and you can make a booking there as well. So that's docmalik, DOCMALIK, .setmore, SETMORE.com, COM. So there's 2 dots there. docmalik.setmore.com. Folks, love you loads. Let's get back to the show. Okay, so listen, I'm not off Bobby yet. So this man said so many good things and did so many good things over the years and spoke to those Maha mums. And I really believe Trump got into power because of the Maha mums, and Bobby. That's why he's in where he is. And Trump's now totally betraying it. Now, if I was Bobby, like he said, he's willing to die for this. So I don't know if it's the options are they've got a gun to his head or his family. And they say, this is what you're allowed to do, this is what you're not, and if you don't, you're going to die like your other family members. It could be they've got incriminating information on him, and he's captured, and for his reputation and legacy, he doesn't want that to come out. That's worse than death, so he's just now controlled and captured. It could be he's just a typical politician. He'll say whatever he wants to say when he's not in power to get into power, and as soon as he gets into power, he'll do whatever it takes to stay in power, because he's a politician. It could be any of these things. But the reality is, I'm a bit disappointed, because if I was him, I would say, hey, folks, I've come into power now, but guess what? It's not what I thought. They've got a gun to my head. They're threatening me. They're caging me. They're telling me what I can and cannot do. And for that reason, I'm going to resign, folks. Guess what? I thought we could make a difference. I thought Trump was a good guy, but he's not. He's not helping me. And I think that in itself would have been such a powerful message to the millions of Americans out there, look, I can't help you guys. None of us can. You all need to help yourselves, because you know what? No one's coming to save you. The system is broken. The fact he's not doing that, and he's a different man now. Don't you agree? He's not the same person before he came into power.
He's not the same person. The same, many of us commented, it's not the same person we knew. This completely different. It's like they replaced him with a different version. And I don't know what it is. I doubt it's some sort of a blackmail material. I highly doubt it. I mean, he comes from a very politically experienced family, obviously. So, you know, it's very unlikely that he didn't anticipate any of, or like gun to the head or threats to the family. It's highly unlikely that he didn't anticipate that.
There's one last thing. I'm sorry. I remembered another thing. It could be he's thinking, do you know what? I can't make all the changes that I would like, but if at least I stay in power, I can make some good. I can make some.
Totally.
And you know what? If I go full on and fight the system, they'll just replace me with someone even worse than me. And you know what? To save America from getting something even worse, you know what? I'll stay in. And if it means I do only half the work or even 20% of what I want to achieve, at least that's better than getting someone worse. I think he's almost like potentially convinced himself of that, even though I disagree with that, by the way. Potentially that's an option.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you. It's likely something along these lines. And it's likely something along the lines of, well, you know, and maybe Trump promised him that he can run, you know, he will have Trump's backers to run for president in 28, for example. That could be one of the bargaining chips to get him originally interested. And yeah, you're right. He delivered the victory to Trump because these Maha moms actually were the winning percentage. And so that was a big bargaining chip. And again, he's coming from a politically very experienced family. So he probably knew how to negotiate that. And he probably was promised something like that. So he's maybe thinking, okay, well, now I'm going to play ball and be a team player with Susie Wiles, but over time, I'll free myself from this and I'll do something good. The problem with these kinds of positions is it's like lesser of two evils, right?
Yes.
But if you decide and you do lesser of two evils, the evil still wins. You know, you haven't done anything really. And so him going along with these monstrous decisions by HHS and FDA, and you know, their new policy that's avert eugenics. They're saying, well, mRNA shots are not good for healthy children, but they're good for unhealthy ones. You know.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that. And look, even the term MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, and MAGA, I've just realized is something called a Barnum statement. Do you know anything about Barnum?
The circus? I know Barnum. I went to Barnum Museum.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, then you'll also, P.T. Barnum was a showman and a politician and a businessman in the 1800s. And he said, I'm a showman by profession, you know, so, you know, that's his style, you know, and he also came up with the line, you know, there's a sucker born every minute. And the Barnum effect is named after him. So Barnum effect is when it's a psychological phenomenon where you manipulate people with the use of language, you know, that feels very personal and true to you, but in actual reality is vague and universal. So I'll say something to you that you say, oh my God, how does he know this about me? But, you know, if I said that to 10 people, everybody would feel the same thing. It's made to make you feel like it's like, you know, you have a great need for people to like and admire you, or you pride yourself on being an independent thinker. Everybody's going to say, yeah, that's me. Oh yeah. It's the kind of thing like, you know, the horoscope people, the palm readers, you know, you always come out of there going, oh my God, that person knows me so well. And it's like, well, that's the whole point. That's what happens. So the kicker is, you know, there's a tendency for people to believe that these vague, emotionally loaded statements are tailored specifically for them. And the effect is used by politicians and pharmaceutical companies and media to manipulate you and your perception. So, you know, in modern politics, it's full of Barnum statements. Like they sound bold, they're visionary, they're unifying, but they're deliberately vague. So take, for example, so everybody allows everyone to project their own hopes and desires when they hear these things, but it doesn't actually deliver anything. So make America great again. I mean, everybody, I would be like, oh, that sounds great. But what does great actually mean? And who decides what's great, and who decides how to make America great? And what are the things that need to be done to make it great, and over what time frame? So it's like, it means everything and nothing, or build back better. You know, that one sounds good, but build back from what? And better for who? And where are the specifics? Make America healthy again. Well, what steps? And what does healthy even mean? Like, because vaccinating everybody and sick kids, that doesn't sound like it's healthy to me.
Or kill the sick and disabled, as they've been doing during COVID. That's also making the America population healthier, just like a herd of cattle. Which, you know, it seems like that's what they actually mean. Because also when you read, there's a Maha PAC, which is a political action committee. It's the, you know, their goal is politics, and they keep this website with Maha wins and all these, you know, listing all the things that RFK said or did, or, you know, mostly said, and whatever other on different policy items. And their major statement headline is something like Maha success or something is just beyond the horizon.
That's a Barnum statement.
That's a Barnum statement. First of all, it's a Barnum statement, but also it has a piece of truth in it, because you can never reach beyond the horizon. Horizon is an imaginary line that moves with your movement, right? So
it's a Barnum statement, 100% solid one, solid, intangible, never ever, realizable. It's just not there. It's just this thing that sounds great.
It sounds like it's like almost there, but if you actually think about it, it's like, oh, it's never going to be here.
Yeah, you're always in touching distance, but you're never in touching distance. You're almost in touching distance. Oh, Lord help me. I mean, look, for being critical of Trump and Bobby, and like saying, look, we're not moving fast enough, anywhere near fast enough, and actually we're in a lot of things, like, don't get me wrong, a lot of things are being said that sound good. Again, Barnum statements. But the reality and the practicality and the effects aren't great. Like £500 billion being spent on mRNA cancers and AI, Stargate, like, what the hell? $500 billion? Like, what the hell? Like, wearables? Everybody has to wear a wearable? Like, it's like, what the hell? And the Surgeon General just happens to have a company that makes wearables as well. And you're like, what the hell? Like, and she didn't even finish her residency. Like, she's like a junior doctor who's, she's not even a practicing doctor. She's not licensed, not registered. She's given up. She never was even top of her game. She barely finished she didn't even finish her training. She was a junior doctor and she bailed out. And like, she's now the top doctor in the States. And it's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, but anyway, for calling all of this out, I have lost so many subscribers, paid and free. And they go, oh my God, like, enough of your doom and gloom. And I'm just like, guys, can't you see what's going on here? Like, we're totally being gaslit. The whole point is freedom comes with constant vigilance. And the tendency for people is to go, oh, our guy's in now. Oh, we can relax and go back to watching sports and drinking beer. And it's like, no, no, don't do that. What do you think?
Well, yeah, like that's the tendency is to say, well, no, it's a belief in the savior. It's a cult of personality. I think it's, it's a default position for a lot of people, but especially in the times of like crisis and things are going not in the right direction. We know the country is not in our country, your country is in terrible shape. And so people don't want to face this reality. They don't want to think about bad things. They have enough stress in their lives, and so they just want to come home, relax, and pretend that, well, we won, our team is in, and they're going to take care of it, and let's just support them and be, the cheerleaders. And us saying, well, I don't turn off my brain when my preferred candidate takes power. I'm still myself, and I still have my own principles. So, and so we continue talking, we continue criticizing him. I'm not shy about criticizing Bobby. I don't hate him. I like him. I want the older version of Bobby back. But, as a person, I like him. I don't hate him. I want him to stay there, but I want him to deliver on the promises. And now they're doing the opposite. They're walking away from those promises. They're helping pharmaceutical companies. They're downplaying, actually even completely ignoring the harm that these actions are causing. And they're just continuing to march in Ilona. So I'm going to call it out, and I'm going to be very vocal about it and invite other people to be that, and to warn them that they're not going to receive the support that they hope that they're going to receive, that now both sides are going to hate them. The other side is not going to love them for what they've done. And, so it's a bad strategy that Susie Wiles is marching them on.
I mean, it's just getting bad from worse. I mean, I just love the whole Epstein thing. I'm actually kind of glad. I'm glad, I'm glad for COVID, because hopefully it's what will make the Trump fans realize they've been totally gaslit and betrayed. This thing that they were like, on day one, we will release the Epstein files. You had that guy, Kash Patel, day one. And now, and he's full of animation, and he was going on all these podcasts and interviews, and when we get in and we're going to day one release the Epstein file. And then he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and his eyes were like this, and he's like, trust me, bro. No, there's no, trust me, bro. There's no list. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Have
he
they
killed himself. But I'm also somewhat glad about this, because it's such a total clown performance that I'm hoping that a whole bunch of people, it wakes up a whole bunch of people, and they start thinking critically. And also, for those who are now in Trump's administration, including Bobby, this may be a really wake-up moment, because if I were him, would I want... I think that this Epstein thing is going to be Trump's downfall, frankly.
Yeah.
And would you want to be associated with something like this? Not a good look.
You just wonder what Elon was talking about when he was tweeting those tweets. I mean, so Epstein apparently killed himself over something that didn't exist. And, he was in jail, and so was Ghislaine, for people who were never trafficked, and there were no victims. And
exactly. So why is Ghislaine? Why is Ghislaine in jail? If she is in jail for trafficking children, to whom? If she hasn't trafficked them to anyone, then why is she there?
Which children, and to who was she? Who did she traffic? Why is she in jail?
Yes. How is her case not thrown out now? Why is she not walking free?
And apparently the Democrats made up this list, but it doesn't exist, and now they're voting for the list not to be released, the list that doesn't exist. So why are they even voting about it? And it just goes on and on and on. But it's like, trust me, bro. And it's like, oh my God. And there's a missing minute of the video, and even the case about the Epstein in his prison cell, the guards changing. I did a podcast with Drew Tregley. It's going to come out next week, and he laid it out. It was just so many inconsistencies, and it's just like, trust me, bro. It's all right. The official narrative is true. It's like, oh, Lord, help me. So I'm really hoping a lot of people just realize that, you know what, they're all just, even if they're well-intentioned, even if they're, I think Trump's actually really funny. I love his dancing. This kind of it's just, it's really, really funny. It's like, I just want to start dancing as well like that with him. He's a funny guy. I would actually love to have him around for dinner. I think it'd be fucking hilarious. Actually, I'd prefer to have Trump over than Bobby. I think Trump would be really funny. But they might actually be really good guys and trying their best, but the system won't allow it. And I think that's what people need to understand. But anyway, look, what I want to ask you is two things. One, if you were Bobby or Trump, what would you do if you had all their power tonight? What would you do? And then I'll ask the second question.
So regarding, what would I do in Bobby's place? So as I said, his position, I'm pretty certain that if he terminated the PrEP Act declaration, not the PrEP Act itself, but he has the power to terminate the PrEP Act declaration for COVID and 9 others that are currently outstanding for BS items like that. So he could terminate them anytime by writing a memo to Federal Register. The law is very clear that he has the sole authority to do that. He can also revoke EUAs or direct Marty Macri to do so. And so again, the law is very explicit. No data, no science is needed for this. Now, I know that he would be immediately asked to resign by Trump administration, and whoever comes after him would reinstate that declaration. So people are saying, well, of course, that wouldn't do anything. Now, it would accomplish a lot of things because the cat would be out of the bag about the PrEP Act and the EUA countermeasure status of these shots. And then it's very hard to put the cat back in the bag on this. Now, I call this like a nuclear option. But short of the nuclear option, you have other options. Yeah, so that's the red button. Now, if you say, okay, well, let's not quite do the red button yet, there are other options. Number one is honest disclosure of all that we've discussed right now. Honest disclosure to the public that these shots are a prevailing law. So FDA can claim they're fully approved, and FDA and MHRA and EMA in Europe have all claimed that these are fully approved vaccines. They may claim that, but as I said, lying in marketing is perfectly okay. And the prevailing law is PrEP Act and EUA countermeasures. So what happens is, they say stuff and they lie to people, and people think that's true. But when people get injured by these things that they were lied to about and go and try to seek compensation, they're told, oh no, this is a countermeasure. You have to go to a countermeasure injury compensation program and outline all these hoops that you have to jump through and prove. And then there's a very narrow definition of willful misconduct, and you are still going to lose. So disclose that as part of informed consent disclosures you are obligated to do under the same PrEP Act. So that's why I'm saying follow the same law. If you're using this illegal law to continue commit this crime, at least follow that illegal law and disclose to people what they're supposed to know about it. And that would be number one step. Who would then clamor about these vaccines? Well, currently the CDC reports that 12% of US children have received the latest booster. 12%, it's huge, it's millions of kids. So if you disclose, if those parents bring their child to the doctor because they're brainwashed and they've been lied to, so they bring the child to the doctor and the doctor says, oh, here's your informed consent disclosure. By the way, do you know all this? Who would in their right mind inject their child with this? Nobody. You would not have so many poisonings. And now you have 12% of US children completely poisoned with this crap. And so that's my advice of what I would do in his place. And then, fight with Trump, fight with Susie Wiles over this. But you are just following the law. The law tells you that you're supposed to do that. You're also supposed to report to Congress about safety and efficacy, monthly reports, which they have not done. They haven't. They just forgot to do it, And so, there's a whole bunch of things that they can do in the interim to bring at least transparency to what's going on. But they're actively covering it up. And cover up is worse than the crime itself. So they did not commit the crime. So Bobby didn't commit this crime. But once he joined Trump administration, he's now covering up for them. So he's accessory after the fact.
Yeah, well, there's a term for this in medicine and surgery, and it's all about probity and integrity. Mm-hmm. Mistakes can happen, things can go wrong, even negligence, and and that you can get compensation for that. But what's even worse than all of those things, than the mistakes, the negligence, and everything, is the covering up. If you choose to cover up, that's like the worst deed. Like you should put your hands up and say, "Look, sorry, by the way, this has gone on," and Bobby shouldn't have a problem doing that. I mean, he wasn't responsible. He's been calling this out.
He wasn't responsible, yeah.
And actually, he can say, look, I'm vindicated. All my critics, the media, everybody, guys, it's worse than I thought. Now that I'm in power and I've got access to all the information, not only was I right, it was even worse than I thought. Guys, I need to tell you this. If we're ever going to have hope of restoring trust in our institutions, seeking redress for all the victims and all the people who've suffered, and to stop any more harms from happening, I need to be fully transparent and honest with you. That's what I would expect from a man with integrity and morals.
Yeah. And by the way, we were successful in this in the state of Louisiana. So about a year and a half ago, Catherine and I worked with one of the Louisiana lawmakers and her staff, and we drafted that disclosure letter that I just said, about EUA countermeasure status of these products for their Louisiana Health Department. And we provided it to them, and Louisiana Health Department stopped recommending mRNA vaccines.
Well done. Perfect.
It works. It works.
Yeah, amazing. Well done. Well, listen, the next question was, what can the average person, average listener do in this crazy world? People say to me, oh, but you know what, all these problems are here. And what can we do about it? I mean, I give my answers, but what's your answer? What can people do in this crazy world to fix all this mess?
Well, I would say, number one, I've always recommended to people the personal non-compliance with all this idiocy and crime. So personal non-compliance, try as much as you can. If you're in the healthcare system, trapped in the healthcare system, I understand people having jobs and lives, and I talk to people in the system still, and many are recognizing that this is a problem. Many are having, really bad feelings about it, but they are afraid because, again, I have my job, I have my mortgage, I have my family. Yeah, I understand all that, but as much as you can, try to every day think of what you can do to bring this to light, to further the justice and transparency, to help people who are likewise trapped. And then, we can support each other. I'm trying to provide information as much as possible. All my new articles for free, so people can read and share and convince their loved ones. If somebody's having a baby, try to talk to them. Do not vaccinate your child, because if you follow the CDC schedule and ACIP recommendations of our mutual friend Robert Malone, co-chair, you will end up with a dead or disabled child, guaranteed. So those recommendations are evil, fully evil, and they're designed to injure or kill your child. So don't follow them. And if people understood that, if people stopped, walk away. We don't want the 12% children getting those shots. We want 0% children getting those shots, even when they're advertised and pushed on us. If we all say no, they cannot do anything about it. They will have to fold.
This is what I say. So in summary, this is what I say. I say, be your own hero and leader. Don't put your feet up when someone you like gets into power. Don't trust a politician. Not comply. When they say, oh, you know what, you're going to lose your job, say, okay, fine then. What happened here in the UK? 100,000 healthcare workers said, we're not going to take the jab. And the hospitals went back to the politicians about, we won't be able to run the hospitals if all these people lose their jobs. You're going to have to stop this mandate. And they went, okay, they dropped the mandate. And the mandate is just a mandate. And when they say to you, you can't fly if you don't have the jab, say, okay, fine. The number one reason why people tell me they got the shot was, oh, you know what, I had to fly. Oh, we needed to go on a holiday. But so what they're saying is, in reality, is I took an experimental bioweapon genetic injection under duress and coercion by a government who I blindly trust, because it's convenient to just say okay than resist and say no. That's what they're saying. And so what I would say to everybody is, don't do that. Just don't do that. Just say no.
Yeah.
Like the power is in us.
Yeah. Don't fly, or in reality, you never actually needed for at least for domestic travel. There was never real mandate for these vaccines, so you could travel without. It was never a problem. And most international destinations also, you could travel with like a antigen test, whatever, and had no problem. So only some countries were totally nuts, like Australia, for example. But
You're right.
yeah. So you could still say no, you could still do it, and not comply. And if more of us do that every day, and I'm telling you, this will become more and more like, now they're introducing digital IDs, digital money. I heard from my Australian colleagues that they're going to now require digital ID to get on the internet in Australia starting in December. And so we need massive, massive resistance to those things. That's what needs to happen. We can't let them put us in this cage, in this digital cage.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, when I know you do a lot of work with Catherine, brilliant work, looking at the PrEP Act, the countermeasures, the DoD, everything, the paper trails and everything. Like, do you ever just step back and look at the big picture? Because I've been doing that in the last 2 years. Because I go, like, why is this happening? Why is this institution so corrupt? What's happened to our judiciary and our medical system and our education system and our police force? And why is the armed forces not protecting the borders anymore? And why are politicians like this? I keep going from one to another, and it's inevitably led me up to the world of the bankers. I just feel like follow the money, basically. Like, do you ever sit back and think, like, what is happening in this world? Why is it happening, and who's behind it?
Well, yeah. It's pretty clear that it is about money. All of this is about money, specifically about dollar losing its global reserve status, and they need to switch to another reserve currency. So reserve currency is what's international transactions are settled in, and it's been dollar for a long time now, and dollar is at the end of its cycle, so it's completely debased by U.S. government mountain of debt, which only accelerated under Trump both times. Like first Trump was big acceleration, and second Trump is even bigger acceleration. And currently the U.S. public debt, although they're pretending it's a public debt, but U.S. government is a corporation, so as far as I'm concerned, it's not my debt; it's corporate debt. I don't work for that corporation, and that should be a position of every individual. So they try to scare you with like, there's all this debt, $1 million per citizen. So currently, public debt is something like 37 trillion. And what's interesting with people don't always bring this number up, but so it's so-called unfunded liabilities, which they never count in that debt. But unfunded liabilities are all those promises that they made to retirees, for Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, these very plush retirement accounts for all the government workers, including school districts and police and all that, and military also. So with all those unfunded liability at the state and federal level, it's up to $150 trillion, right? And they're all telling you, it's public debt. You're on the hook for it. Your children will be and grandchildren will be paying it back. Yeah, exactly. Here's a wonderful chart. And I'm saying it doesn't apply to me. I'm not your corporate slave, and I'm not your corporate employee, and you're in the U.S. government is structured as a corporation. It's not anything public. It has nothing to do with a representative form of government. That's why we're seeing all these behaviors of the politicians, because they over time made themselves completely separate from the governance process described in the Constitution and all the relevant laws. They made themselves separate from it. They incorporated themselves, and they run it as a corporation to gain complete sovereign immunity from their wrongful and criminal acts, money laundering, corruption, theft, trafficking of weapons, poisons, humans, everything. So all of that, they're profiting from all of this, but they're covering themselves with this pretend I'm the government, but they're not the government. They're mafia cartel. So mafia cartel went into debt. It's not my debt. And my hope is that they will finally collapse and crash under the mountain of their own debt. What's going on in international markets, the foreign governments used to buy U.S. debt as treasuries and keep it on their balance sheet. And that's how U.S. was continuously printing money for themselves to commit these crimes internationally. and essentially, trickle all this money to all these other actors like Five Eyes and intelligence and military, blah, 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 all over the world to maintain this whole imperial structure that they've built here. But now, because of the dollar collapsing and all this mountain of debt, and nobody wants to really buy those treasuries anymore. So that's why we see a lot of Trump actions and moves and what he's doing, and then, flipping around very quickly on his key positions internationally. They all have to do with him negotiating these deals with foreign governments to buy U.S. treasuries, because that's his number one goal, to continue funding his own criminal cartel.
Yeah.
And that's not going very well right now. So a lot of these movements, so you see, there was a funny episode when, I don't know if you've seen this on X, but Candace Owens was posting, and she said, oh, Trump called me. So he called her to tell her to stop talking about Macron's wife's penis. And it's the fight. Like, find it on X. It's the funniest clip you will ever see.
Okay.
So he is that desperate. So he was in negotiations with Macron, obviously for Macron to buy U.S. treasuries primarily, but then maybe other stuff. And obviously that came up. And so in the middle of it, he calls Candace Owens and says, can you please stop talking about this for a little bit? I just need to do this deal. I need to do this deal.
Unbelievable.
And then another thing is, several weeks ago, he said, we're not funding Ukraine war anymore. I'm like, oh, thank God. I can like him for something.
Yeah.
And then, a couple of weeks later, he says, oh, no, another $500 million to Ukraine. Why? Well, because he was doing the deal, probably with UK and France and Germany, whoever wants that war. And they said, well, we'll buy your treasuries if you fund the war. So he said, okay, fine, we'll fund the war. So that's how you can interpret his moves and what he's doing. But primarily it's corporate restructuring, which is his master of. It's the same way as you restructure bankrupt casino or bankrupt hotel chain. He's doing the same exact moves. He's trying to renegotiate the debt, get more debt sold to these people, and bend over for them backwards, do their wishes and desires to close those deals.
Yeah. Well, the bankers are in charge.
The bankers are in charge.
Bankers world. Bank of International Settlements, central banks, all these people, they're the ones really running the show. Anyway, look, I'm going to wrap it up now. Listen, I just want to say you look lovely in that yellow top. Very nice. Summery, bright. It's nice.
Summer, yeah.
Yeah. Listen, kind of feeling a bit like, I was hoping you'd say, don't worry, Ahmed. Bobby's going to come and save the day at the last minute, even though I don't believe in that kind of stuff. It's just a reminder. We just have to stay vigilant. The thing is, Sasha, staying vigilant is tiring. And most of us have been trained by the system to not be vigilant and not be strong, to just be soft, seek convenience, seek comfort, soothe. And that's why I quite like doing difficult things. I like doing a cold plunge. I like sauna. I like running in the woods. I like jiu-jitsu. I like putting myself in difficult, uncomfortable positions because I know I have to be like this. You have to be physically and mentally resilient. You have to be tough. And and that toughness will, if we were all like that, if all of humanity was like that, when the government comes along and says, by the way, we're raising the tax, we would all turn around like lions and go, no, you're not. And the government would be like, oh, sorry. Like, the government should be scared of us, like literally terrified. They should be serving us. But it's the opposite way around. People are scared of the government. They just think government's, we can't argue with the government. We need to do what they say. And these criminals, legalized criminals, get to do what they want to do. We all need to toughen up. We need to toughen up. Anyway, listen, last question of the day. I know I've asked this of you before, but I'd love to hear your answer. Maybe you've changed it. You're on your deathbed, on your independently wealthy deathbed. Before you pass on and meet your maker, all your loved ones all around you. And what words of wisdom and advice would you give them all before you die?
to be not afraid.
Beautiful. It's that simple, isn't it?
Yeah. It's very
Don't be
simple.
afraid.
And yeah, like go online and search the Bible for "be not afraid" words and read every verse that has that word. And it's something like close to 200 instances where it says to be not afraid. And just every time you forget, remind yourself with this method.
Yeah, even if you have to walk through the valley of the dead or death. Yeah, don't be
Death is
afraid.
not the worst thing that can happen. And you just also have to realize that. And so you have to realize that if you're not afraid, and if you tell the truth, and of course you have to tell the truth all the time. That's another thing that I would definitely tell everyone. Be not afraid. Tell the truth all the time. Do the right thing all the time, every time. There is no such thing, as I said, lesser of two evils. If you do lesser of two evils, the evil wins. So those are my recommendations.
All right. Well, listen, you delivered and more. I really am very grateful for you. At this moment in time, I don't think you're controlled opposition. And if you were, I think you're really crap. Like, you're really
I'm
crap
not
at it.
controlled
Like,
opposition.
I know you're not. I'm not. You're
I
not.
know.
Like, I know. Listen, I think you're a really good egg. I mean that. And it's really sad. I've got to know like so many of you wonderful people in the States. I really hope one day I get to meet you all and hug you in person.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
should come and visit. We can go to Lake Tahoe. If you ski, we can go skiing. We can go to Napa Valley. It's beautiful here. So
Sounds lovely. I mean, I had my honeymoon in Yosemite. I know that neck of the wood. I mean, but
oh
that
yeah.
was San Francisco. I've been to Yosemite 3 times, and last time I went to San Francisco was 2010 or 11. Can't remember. But I would be scared to go there now. I just feel like,
Yeah,
what
no,
the
I
hell has
don't go there.
happened?
No, I don't go there. But there are like beautiful areas all around. So
Yeah.
avoid San Francisco, but around it, it's gorgeous.
All right. Well, listen, thank you so much. I love you so much. Can I ask you a favor? When you stop the recording, when I stop it, can you not close your browser because it
Sure.
needs to upload? And I don't want to lose this. And this is going to be going out to everybody in the next couple of days. Keep doing what you're doing. I know you don't need to do this. You could just sit back and relax and retire and drink wine and just have fun. Like, you do this because you genuinely care about humanity, about your children, about everything, and about doing the right thing. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I, Ahmed Malik, am a private civilian protected by the Geneva Convention. My Substack, social media posts and podcasts are my personal experiences, observations, and opinions. This information is for educational purposes only. Although I am a doctor, I am not your doctor, and I am not providing medical or legal advice to you or to the wider public. I am not licensed or registered with the GMC or any other licensing board. The responsibility for the interpretation, due diligence, and use of the information from my Substack and my podcast lies with you, the viewer and or listener. Please do your research and use your discernment. It is not my intention to harass, intimidate, offend, defame, conspire, blackmail, coerce, or cause anxiety, alarm, or distress to any man or woman, and the information presented here is done so with peaceful and honourable intentions. Enjoy, folks.